Because today's
Tuesday, Jamie.
NHL trade deadline was on Monday.
Because it's a holiday. The NHL trade deadline is always a holiday around here. So you thought you were off.
I've already made a mistake. Steve Yzerman is the general manager of the Detroit Red Wings, and he joins us now here on 97.1 The Ticket, the home of the Red Wings. Good morning, Steve. How you doing?
I'm good, Jamie. Mike, how you guys doing?
Good, thanks.
We are great. We really appreciate the time after what I'm sure was a busy couple of days. Did the deadline day and the days leading up to it kind of play out the way you imagined it would, expected it to?
Roughly, yeah. You kind of get a sense going the week up to the deadline. You find teams you have some common ground with, and kind of stay in touch with them along the way and what they're trying to do, and kind of gauge the market a little bit to prepare yourself. And we knew the players on our team that other teams had interest in acquiring, and it was really, for the most part, narrowed down to Mike Green, Andreas Athanasiou, and yeah. So we I guess to answer your question, yes, it played out fairly how we saw it shaping up in the coming week.
Athanasiou, obviously, one of the popular players with the fans. 30 goals last year. This year, injuries, not playing as well. A staggering minus 45 plus minus. Obviously, Steve, he's not somebody that you felt was part of the core of this team to go forward. That be accurate?
Well, we're trying to rebuild, and rebuilding you need prospects and draft picks, and we looked at a combination for our players with the teams we were dealing with. Looking at their prospects, who they were willing to give up, looked at their draft picks, what they were willing to give up, and ultimately on the two, get picks and prospects. So mostly it was about trying to rebuild and who's going to get the return on the assets for us to kind of expedite this or get it going. And that we got to decide. He's a restricted free agent for a couple more years. We re-signing him, which we could have done him being a restricted free agent. And what's the return, and where are we going to be 1, 2, 3 years down the road? So. Again, for whatever reason, it's all the other teams' decisions, not mine, who they're interested in. And teams kept calling about Andreas Athanasiou, and ultimately we felt, that the 2 second-round picks was worth enough to move him at this time.
The only criticism I saw from social media, and we know what that's all about because we get it too, is how could Tampa give up a number one for Barclay Goodrow, who has 8 goals? And we get only 2 twos for Athanasiou. My answer to that was, Tampa needed a big physical forward more than Edmonton was willing to give up for Athanasiou. Would that be accurate?
You would have to speak to the Tampa Bay Lightning as to why they did what they did.
Okay.
I can't answer it for them. All I can tell you is ultimately I try and make the best deal I possibly can. I tried a lot of different ways. Ideally, I would have gotten a first-round pick. Ken Holland just bluntly said, "I'm not moving my first. I can't do it." We talked about a lot of different things, and ultimately, this is what we could agree upon. So, yes, I would have liked to. I would have liked to have gotten a first-round pick. It's funny. I look at a lot of the deals around the league, and I say, why couldn't we get this? Why couldn't we get that? And again, that speaks to other teams' motivations, needs, pressures, whatnot. So we ultimately did the best we thought we could. And again, you look at it and say, well, maybe we could hang on, and we'll see again next year. We'll figure, try and do better at that. We ultimately felt like, at this stage, the 2 second-round picks for AA was good return, but. Yeah, I look around. Trade deadline's funny, and again, every team does things for different reasons, and they have their own pressures. And ultimately, we were comfortable on both trades that this is fair return at this time.
We're talking to Red Wing GM Steve Yzerman here on 97.1 The Ticket. The NBA gave us load management about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, and we heard when you guys held out Andreas and Mike Green on Sunday night that was asset management. First time we'd ever heard of that. Is that a Steve Yzerman term?
No.
No.
I heard that asset man. I've heard a couple of new terms coming up. You can thank your colleagues in the analytics world, probably. I don't know where this term originated, but it was not my term. So yeah, when I read that too, I kind of was like, oh, that's interesting. Because
that's a new way of putting it.
This isn't asset. You can call it whatever you want. I guess it is asset management, but ultimately, I told both players, and our reasons for holding them out was we were close enough to trades that we thought it was prudent just to hold them out in the event they get hurt tonight and the trade falls apart. Knowing full well I didn't have a deal on the table, but there was enough interest and enough. We were far enough down the line that we felt we were going to probably move both players. So it was just doing I'll use the term prudent thing, and I'm not sure that's even a thing or a term.
Because you've made your mark in this game in so many ways. I was going to give you full credit for it and add it to your Wikipedia page, but that's not the case.
I don't want any credit for that. Okay.
All right. It's gone. It's erased.
Did you and Kenny talk about packaging the two deals into one, or did the AA trade just happen? Obviously later in your discussions.
Yeah. We kicked around the names for a few days, and again, I don't know what Kenny and the Oilers had going in other areas, assets or picks or prospects, what other potential deals they were working on. So Kenny said, "Look, let's focus on Mike Green." And with Andreas, there was other teams interested that I was looking at potential trades with other teams as well. So we were able to focus on Mike, and that one came about. I don't know what day it is. Sunday night, I guess.
Yeah.
So so there were two separate deals, and again, we got you got a lot of things on the go, and you're juggling this, and you're weighing different options. So we never really talked about it as a package.
Steve, you talked a lot yesterday about rebuilding and the process, and you're trying to accrue prospects and draft picks. With that in mind, is there anybody that you currently have in the regular organization who is a non-starter, or are you willing to listen to just about anything to get to this thing where you want to get it?
I'm not going to. I stay away from trying to answer that question one way or the other because it tends to be headline material. Some players I have no desire to trade at this time, and quite frankly, they're hard to trade because you're never going to find a fit really in equal value. So I'm not going to really trade, a real good young player that we think is going to be here for a long time because they're hard to move because at some we've done a lot. Again, we traded two players yesterday. Andreas in particular being a young guy that could be around. We trade him for draft picks. Last year Gus Nyquist was traded for draft picks. The year before, Thomas Tatar traded for draft picks. At some point, you need players. So, we're hoping we can replace those players, not necessarily at the time of the trade, but eventually we've got to replace them. So we can't just keep wheeling out guys for draft picks. But on any player, you look at it, okay, where does he fit on our team? Can I sign him? Does his contract make sense? And then ultimately, if there is a potential move, you better think it's going to make you better. And, you just weigh everything off. So there's certain players I have no interest in trading at this time, and they're part of what we're going to do long term. But I guess I just leave it at that.
In listening to your comments yesterday, you won't commit to it, obviously, but you seem pretty pleased with the job Jeff Blashill has done. After a certain amount of years with the team and the lack of success, does even if you think he's a good coach, do some of the players maybe need a new voice in there?
Maybe at some point. I don't see it as that yet. Jeff took over in a very difficult spot, in a different spot or difficult time in the organization. He's coming in as Pav and Hank, as Nick Lidstrom. I think Nick had maybe retired or was close to retiring at that point. Nick Cronwell's nearing the end of his career. So since Jeff's come here, the team has started its rebuild. And so every year we're trading away players. He comes in a difficult spot. And I watching from afar, from down in Florida the last few years, watching the team, but most obviously working with him directly this year. we're in a rebuild, and that's a difficult team to coach when we're trading out players and acquiring draft picks. I don't believe in making a coaching change just to make a coaching change. I think you have to assess the team and decide, okay, is the team underperforming, or I don't like the way the team is playing, and this and that. Right now, the team isn't good enough to say this is Jeff Blashill's fault. Like, I'm going to bring in a new coach and change things, and it's going to, turn our fortunes around. We need to improve our team. We need our players we need more young players coming in to develop. So, maybe at some point you have to, you say that the players have tuned out the coach. I really don't believe that. It's a difficult question to answer, but at this time, I'm not worried about the coaching staff. It's improving the team, really, improving the prospect pool, and improving the organization as far as being able to develop players. Making sure Grand Rapids is in a good spot, and right now, as I said, I've enjoyed working with Jeff. I watch very closely. I think he's done a really good job of having our team compete. He's tried a lot of different things with systems, and to see, he gets a chance to experiment a little bit. So, Stoney, the coach isn't. I can change a coach. It's not going to make a dramatic difference at this point. We need to improve our hockey team.
Steve, we really appreciate the time this morning. Thanks so much, and we will talk to you, I don't know, draft time? You get to stop talking to us again now for a while, so maybe around the draft, right?
I'm available if need be.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Steve.
it.
You bet. Bye.
All right, there he is. Steve Yzerman, the Red Wing general manager, right here on 96.